and welcome to the Most Excellent 80s Movies podcast. It's the podcast where a pair of filmmakers and a comedian really just survive and make the most of the 80s movies we think we love or might have missed with these our modern eyes and sensibilities. And really, in the end, the reward is friendship. We are watching, or we did watch, Enemy Mine, a movie selection from 1985.
Marooned on a desolate planet, he is a soldier, alone with his enemy.
Don't you understand English, toad face? I don't love you and you don't love me. We're stranded here, you understand?
His suspicion will change to tolerance.
You saved my life. Why?
I need to look at another face, even as ugly as yours.
Tolerance will lead to friendship.
We should open up a little place here. I could ruin the food. You could scare away the customers.
And with that friendship will come an overwhelming responsibility.
You must be a parent.
Don't kid around, Jerry.
You must take my place.
Protecting a life he values more than his own. Dennis Quaid, Louis Gossett Jr., Wolfgang Petersen's Enemy Mine.
Enemy Mine. All right. I am Krissy Lenz, director of the Neighborhood Comedy Theater, improviser, comedian. And with me, as always, is filmmaker Nathan Blackwell.
Oh, hi, Krissy. Good to podcast with you again.
I know, it's been a hot minute.
Welcome back to our brand new season 2.3.
Yeah.
Thank you. Totally planned. It's all right.
Yep. And we have yet another special guest with us today.
That's right. A filmmaker friend of mine, Sean Oliver.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Oh, he's got a British accent now.
Oh,
Who knows what the voice will be as we go on.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I'm into it. Change it up. So tell us a little bit about your filmmakering, Sean.
So I kind of met Nathan because we were both doing web series for a long time. So he was doing Voyage Trekkers, the very awesome sci-fi based
Voyeur Trekkers.
Voyage Trekkers. And so while he was doing that, I was making a web series about lucid dreaming called Lucidity. And I think I just ended up kind of discovering him as I was looking for other web series creators and saw him that, he was at a lot of the same festivals we were at and stuff like that. And we just kind of slowly developed a friendship through that.
Yeah,
and
we're
then,
both adults dressing in strange costumes in the desert.
Yes, we had so much in common about that and making lightsaber noises.
Yay. Wonderful. So Enemy Mine. This was my first time seeing this movie, although I definitely was in the room while my parents watched this movie and was just like, you're crazy. I don't know what this weirdness is. Was this a favorite of yours, Sean?
Yeah, so I watched this film almost every summer in Oregon with my grandmother.
Wow.
It was her favorite film, which was weird because she was just this tiny little Korean woman and she just loved Enemy Mine a lot.
I love that. I love the idea that she's like, well, must be getting on summer. Time for Enemy Mine.
Get that VHS tape out. So I watched it all, just literally over and over and over again. and I probably had watched it maybe once in high school, and then this is like, you know, my previous. I haven't watched it for a decade or more, so it was quite a watch.
That's great.
Back to it.
Yeah. So do we know why she wanted to watch it so often?
Was she into Dennis Quaid? Was she
into Louis Gossett Jr.?
We never discussed her sexual preferences. Unfortunately, she did pass before we had the opportunity to.
God damn it!
Really get into what makes a hunk.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we discuss that a lot on this podcast, though. I mean, it's mostly me, but I discuss that a lot on this podcast. So I hope you're ready with some hot takes.
Oh, it's part of the business.
Yeah,
it's part of our expectations.
Yeah.
So she always told us bedtime stories about aliens. I think she liked aliens, so I think that was a lot of it. And it's
a movie about finding common ground between two different alien species.
Yeah. There totally could have been her feelings of being a Korean woman and married this, you know, weird white Asian guy, and neither of their families really being into it.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe, you know, she saw her own children as these little Zammies.
Aw, Zammies. That's lovely. And Nathan, I have to assume that this is a favorite of yours. I don't know why. It just like I saw a lot of Nathan in this movie.
Oh, awesome. Well, I this is a movie I've probably only seen twice.
What? I am shocked.
Maybe like 2.5 times.
Okay.
But
it's not hugely popular, right?
Yeah, it almost kind of reminds me of like if you had to throw it into a bin of movies, I'd almost put it in with like Alien Nation, like definitely like a sci-fi movie from the 80s that kind of like took society and spun it on its head. Like I guess I ended up being much more in the like Last Starfighter zone of the movies that I would like rewatch. I think
it's not really a kids like space movie.
I think that's why, because it's really more an adult
like
sci-fi
their
movie.
action scenes are terrible.
So
yeah.
so bad.
Which is fine because it's not built upon that.
Right, but I mean, like all the humans are literally it's a sci-fi movie and everything in design, but all the humans are shooting like 1980s firearms, like literally like silver semi-automatic pistols that don't even look futuristic. They're just shiny and metallic, but it's literally like spray painted pistols.
No, I didn't even give them the credit that they spray painted them. They looked just off the shelf.
Yeah, like off the shelf shotguns
but all the money went into the makeup, you know.
And it was really good. So.
They got those guns at Five Below.
Yeah. Different departments, I guess.
Yeah. I did laugh every time they've pulled out a gun. It's just like, what is going on with this? Like,
look, you space alien.
I'm gonna fire this chunk of metal right at you.
Yeah.
They spent all the money on like Erlenmeyer flasks to be filled with green and red liquid. I
mean, this we don't know the backstory of this world. There could be this whole like, you know, firearm big interest monopoly that has just slowed the development of human firearms.
Yeah, and
there's
I think we should
one
assume
laser
that.
gun per group, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
They're like rocket
pilot.
launchers.
The laser gun lobby was not very strong in this universe.
So human beings, this movie starts out by letting us know that human beings were out in space and we are doing that thing that human beings do, which is running around telling everybody that this shit's ours and you better get out of here. So
it was a legal acquisition. That's what he said.
That was possibly my favorite moment of the whole thing, when they are fighting and he's like, "We legally annexed these star systems."
Legal annexation.
Through the human legal system.
You were served papers and you had 30 days to respond and you did it.
Just because your, different species planetary legal system isn't the same as ours does not enter into our calculations. So this war has been going on for untold eons. And every once in a while, they just run around space together and shoot at each other. These humans and these Dracs, which are the alien. Which were you guys also weirded out by the fact that they kept referring to them as non-human aliens? And I'm like, do we need both of those designations?
I didn't even catch that, actually.
No.
I was just like, yep, non-human alien.
Non-human aliens.
Yeah,
Well, it implies that we've met human aliens, like over,
well, if you've seen Star Trek, there's
Titan
a
or
lot of
something.
those.
Right. It's, okay. All right. Fine, Nathan.
That's
fine.
true. That's true. They're always like
The guy with the
impoverished.
dimple on his forehead, or the guy with like the tattoo on his nose.
Yeah. But those would still not necessarily be humans, though, right? They'd be humanoid, but not like they're not humans if they're not.
But yeah, if you want to get technical,
It's like so close that Congress just considers them human.
They don't care. Yeah, they don't care.
Like your belly button can
it's
be
such
6
deep,
inches higher.
rich world building. It's really hard to crack this sometimes.
It is. Well, and that's speaking of world building, they just jump directly into things are happening. Like things just there's no beginning of this movie.
But still with just a stupid narration.
Yeah.
I
Right.
hate narration.
I decided to climb into my starship and then turn on the power switch.
A lot of it's pretty much exactly what we're getting to.
Yeah,
like,
it's like
I don't know why.
Yeah, stuff that I guess they had to add in post production because it does seem like it's just narrating exactly what we see, but maybe they're trying to make it more clear.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's too-
I think so.
Too confusing that he's getting into the spaceship and going into space. He's got to say that.
I decided to sit down in my seat really hard this
Even in the
time.
end, after he's back, he's like, "And I knew I had to get back." It's like, we know, we all know where you're going,
Yeah.
Dennis.
We've been paying attention, but so they are like, here's what we need. We all get Dennis Quaid. You get him just from looking at him. All we need is like less than 5 minutes of him and his 12-year-old co-pilot, like fat shaming the women and being slightly horny.
He tries to make it right. He's like, "Hey, man, like my dying wish is for you to be less of a dick."
So again, it's always interesting to see like the past, in this case the 80s, kind of future project what the future is. So you've got women pilots. That's cool.
But they still need to mind their weight. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
They still need to be physically...
Everybody does when you're an astronaut, though. That's
Right.
not purely sexist. There's gravity. Getting off the planet is a lot of fuel.
I mean, from a scientific point of view,
I don't think that's what they were talking about, but
I don't
it
think
is
it
a
is.
different concern.
right.
Yeah. And then like bada bing, bada boom, we are stuck on this planet, which like the whole time I was like, it seemed like he was just right there. Like it seemed like he was just right there. Like he flew like a half an inch. Why can't they find him?
Yeah.
They clearly don't care.
Yeah. Again, maybe a deleted scene, but everyone thought he was a dick, I think.
Or that he went down to, right? Like you saw his ship like go into this place.
It would be interesting as if they were watching the whole time and this had become like a new reality show. They just didn't want to spoil it. They didn't want to break the bubble.
It's like a Big Brother situation.
I mean, it's it's like, oh my god, is he gonna survive? Oh my god, there's a Drac there. Oh my god, are they gonna kill each other? Oh my god, they're friends. Oh my god,
crazy Drac.
Who's pregnant?
So yeah, like, and I love a story of people who are stranded and like they're having to make the most. I love a Swiss Family Robinson. I love a Castaway. I love using the things you find in your environment to like, play football and try and have a normal life. I'm into it. I'm here for it. So basically, like that's the story: is that Dennis Quaid and the alien Drac have to learn to live together or else be alone. So what do you guys think of the makeup on Louis Gossett Jr., the Drac, who was apparently nude for a big portion of the beginning of this movie?
Right.
It's true.
Oh, that is what my notes show. I thought the makeup was great. I thought they did a really good job, especially for... you look back at some of these movies and the makeup does not hold up. But in this case, I felt like it was pretty solid, you know, not only in terms of like concept, but in terms of execution, you know.
Yeah, I think it's their biggest strength of everything that they had going for it. And I think they probably knew that they needed to get it right.
Yeah.
Because even like some Star Wars aliens or, you know, other 80s sci-fi, you know, they get pretty goofy.
It's just like, yeah, I mean, even like some of the aliens in Return of the Jedi, it's just like literally a big rubber mask.
Yes. Well, and what I really loved about the alien makeup in Enemy Mine is that like you can understand an evolution, like an environmental evolution that would produce these creatures with the like sort of the corners of the mouth that sort of inflate and deflate, the like sort of retracting beak like mouth, the you know, bubbles on the head and things like this. Like I can understand an evolution that would produce those traits.
It looks very alive.
Yeah, as opposed to like sometimes like you mentioned Star Wars, or even like this often my criticism of like Guillermo del Toro things is like, what evolution produced you? Like why?
Fear. It's del Toro mostly, the evolution of fear, I think.
Oh yes. And so I thought they looked really good. But other than that, like the creatures on the planet, they clearly put all their eggs
little
in
furry
one basket.
dustbuster thing.
And yeah, these little furry many-eyed dustbusters, and the one slappy creature. There's like one creature in a Sarlacc,
which as a kid was
like
terrifying.
Like the sand lamprey.
I thought he was terrifying as a child. So
the
it
slappy
didn't work on kids. Yeah, the slapper.
Yeah.
In the beginning, you know, when Dennis Quaid is interacting with Louis Gossett Jr., aka Jerry, I'm just thinking, it's like, okay, how are you representing humans, Dennis Quaid? And there's so many like embarrassing things that he did to that alien. It's like you're really giving the wrong representation to us people. Like where he's like, I don't know what happened, like how long it took him to sneak over to his ship, but he was just like, feed me, give me food, like he was tied up and he was his prisoner, and Dennis Quaid is like literally like screaming for food. Like you could go a couple days without food, you know, or maybe he's like on some like special like paleo or keto diet or whatever, like he needs a certain amount of calories per hour or whatever. Maybe he's just really stressed on that, you know.
Yeah, well, and he
just seemed voracious, like he was going to eat anyone or anything.
Yeah,
I mean, he's not who we want representing us in the end.
No, because he's also like, I hate you, save me, yeah. You know.
Do you understand my language, Toad Face? It's like, ugh.
Yeah.
It's just because you didn't understand a lot of the hateful words that Jerry was using, you know. Some of those like that's very offensive.
If I had turned the subtitles on, maybe we would have just seen how bad the other side was.
Well, yeah, me and my friend that watched it, one of the things that was just like rubbing us weird is that he just treats Jerry like he's an immigrant. Instead of like a freaking alien, right? Like he's just, you understand English? It's just like, well, like, is that really how you'd approach a space alien? Like,
yeah, he has very American sensibilities, even down to the fact that like his god is Mickey Mouse, and like,
which is funny since it's from a German director, so it's like a German director kind of, you know.
Yeah,
like, what he wants to highlight as American sensibility. Yeah,
he was doing like a drive-by on American culture.
Yeah. Well, and like I think Dennis Quaid was so well cast in that way because he just like has a punchable face. Like,
yeah, you do. That's the thing. You do. It's purposeful. You do want to make him the obnoxious, ignorant American, patriotic American who does go through this paradigm shift of learning sensitivity and learning what the other side is doing. You know, it's almost, I mean, there's so many different, the great thing about sci-fi is that you can say, oh, this is about the Americans versus Russians, or this is about white and black, you know. There's so many different, because it's coming at from an angle rather than straight on, you know, you can apply this situation as a metaphor to so many other terrible human situations that we've created.
This is very true, and it is that, and even like there are moments where it seems like, oh, they think this is comedy, like they're doing like very a sitcom-y, like I'm gonna tape a line down my side of the shelter, you stay on your side of the shelter, you know, and it's a little bit bananas. So, but they do learn to live together. They, you know, have this like tepid sort of alliance, and then at some point, also like what is going on with Dennis Quaid's like beard and hair? Could he not
how we show time.
No, look. I know, but couldn't he grow a beard? Couldn't he grow his hair? Like,
look, it's I wish it was straightforward, but it's not. And then that's the thing. It's like you see him like start to get the stubble, start to grow a little facial hair. Like if it was based off of how fast I can grow a beard, like that literally could have been like 2 years that's passed.
And then
but yeah, from the male point of view, I wish all beards came out luxurious and not patchy and camera pretty.
It's getting so personal here.
Look,
you know, can you relate, Sean?
I mean, mine started to come in a little bit more in the past couple of years. I'm more okay with my facial hair, but I was once right where you are. I don't have a hero's beard. I've reconciled this. I have more of what some might call a villain's beard.
Yeah, I mean, if Dennis Quaid's going to be out here fat shaming the lady pilots, I'm going to beard shame his game. You know, like
all right, beard shame is.
I mean,
on.
After 3 years is pretty weak effort. I think
so. But they're like, oh, we spent all this money on Louis Gossett Jr. looking amazing. Like, we're just going to stick some like dollar store beard on you and like a wig we borrowed from a different movie.
Don't worry, no one's looking at Dennis. They're all looking at the Drac.
Exactly. What do you guys think about like Dennis Quaid? Do you have feelings about him? Like, do you like him? Do you love
in general or in this movie?
Both in general and in this movie, like, you know, because he's very much the same character in this movie, I think, that he is in like in Inner Space, where it's just like he's a lovable jerk kind of, but I'm not sure I love him that much. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I you know what? I've always had a soft spot for lovable jerks because they're charming and usually idiots, you know, and usually there's some degree of growth and learning or humility with it, but I kind of enjoy the characters that are full of themselves but are missing the mark, you know?
Like a Star-Lord type is kind of
absolutely. Like I'm that's right in my sweet spot. And yeah, as a kid, I always thought the hammy nature was always fun. Like the clown part was always fun.
Yeah,
you know, like I really liked him in Inner Space. He was definitely one of my favorites in that.
I love Inner Space. It's so good. What about you, Sean? Do you feel a certain way about Dennis Quaid?
I don't have really any feelings towards Dennis Quaid.
Yeah, that's fine.
Sean, what are your feelings towards Dennis Quaid?
He wouldn't, if he passed, he wouldn't be my like sad Facebook tweet of we lost a great celebrity.
Yeah.
But maybe I would like someone else's.
Well, that's because you're a villain and you're growing a villain beard.
So in this movie, he was just Davinch to me always. That's what he's always been ever since childhood.
He became the character so completely.
And I don't want to watch too many Dennis Quaid movies because it might take away from that.
It's true.
Well, Inner Space.
But I thought he did a great job in this, like ultimately, because there's some things that are just a big ask for an actor to have to like make work. If you're,
right, like
the way you're shooting it isn't like really cheating it to be great,
right?
So.
Like the joy of the baby Chud or Ghoulie being born and holding it in his arms. Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah.
Is it that the baby actually? It so much reminded me of the little squid baby in Men in Black, and I was like, well, I guess Alien Baby tech didn't advance that much in 10 years.
Yeah.
Between these two movies,
right?
Even like his little mid phase when he's like, I don't know, like supposed to be a 1-year-old, he's just a doll that he picks up and runs through the cave, and he gives it his best.
He Yoda's it. He puts it on his back and he starts running everywhere.
Yeah, so that's what happens next. Basically, is that Louis Gossett Jr. is like, oh, BT Dubs, like my people don't have gender. You just all of a sudden have a baby in growing in you, like, and
You just
there's
don't even
nothing.
get to choose. It just happens.
It just happens. But I like Louis Gossett Jr. is like acting the hell
I like
out
to
of
think.
it.
I like to think that when the Dennis Quaid was choking the living crap out of Louis Gossett Jr., that actually got him
That
pregnant.
triggered it.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I
It
thought.
was, it was pretty, they were right in each other's
I mean,
face.
too much sweat falls on his body, which absorbs
Some
it.
Drex, are really into that sort of play anyway.
Oh my.
If you check out the websites, oh my God, anyway.
We're not here to kink shame any alien species or humanoid alien, non-human aliens. But I love the way he is, like the way he plays the character, like as he's like, well, I'm gonna have a baby and nobody has a choice about it. I'm knitting a little short.
No, he's so excited and like preparing, and he's nesting. Or they are nesting, I guess I should say.
He is soupy doops cute, and they. As they get to know each other, like it becomes obvious that he's gonna die. Like he's like knows he's gonna die but I was unclear on like he says something's wrong, so they don't always die when they have babies.
Besides, if they only gave birth to one and then died, there'd only be one, right?
Well, they couldn't do the whole take your kid in front of the council thing, right?
Yeah.
Which is a big part of it.
Your lineage, to quote, your lineage would be quite sure to be like, well, I had Larry, and then that was it.
And then he had everyone else.
Yeah.
It's like anyone giving birth in a cave, though. You're like, usually there's a lot more medical devices.
Mm-hmm.
This may not go well.
And it
Just
does
so
not
you
go
know,
well.
Dennis.
And essentially, he's like, you got to rip this baby out of me. And he's like, well, okay. And then, like, I was shocked when he just uses his fingers to, pry open the belly. Like, we know he had a knife.
Yeah, but then you're like stabbing your friend too. He's like, I don't know how far the baby is in there. This looks like it should open.
Like a zipper. It looks like a zipper.
Like I see a hinge.
Nature's zipper.
Yeah. But they do have these really so the kind of crux of like them finally becoming like brothers, I guess you would say, is that they share each other's lineage. They like, tell me the story of your ancestors, and that's like really important to the Drax people. Which I thought was so beautiful and like such an uncommon thing to see in an 80s movie, where it's like the bonds are forged by honoring someone to share your story, right? Someone who's worthy of knowing your story, sharing it with them is the ultimate vulnerability, and like the exchange of a person to person to tell their story is like kind of the biggest deal there is. And I love that, like, Dennis Quaid, who's representing this like very human asshole, it's like, yeah, I mean, I guess I had a mom and a dad and a grandpa, I guess, and he's like, oh well, I've got so much culture and it's so beautiful, and I've got so much religion and it's so beautiful. Who's the savage one or whatever,
No, I absolutely love that part, especially also they had a lot of like odd special meaning, since this is tied to my grandmother.
Aww.
So there's literally like lineage for me with this film, which is all like nostalgia. Like I get that not everybody will have that read with it, but when it kind of got to that, it's not something that I had remembered from the movie. And there is something very thoughtful of like when we're out in space, and like that question of where you come from, I think does become more important, because you're so far from home. And I can see how any spacefaring race like the Drax would consider that an importance of like respecting your origins, and keeps you tied to it, so you don't become these ravengers at the edge of space that don't really care about anything because you don't really have a home.
Yeah.
And Dennis Quaid's his lineage was very relatable. My dad, he helped make computers, and then my mom, she was like a waitress, and then
Grandma was a good cook.
Right.
You know, she lived 80 years, but all she did was cook. Really, dude? Really?
Yeah. And then, I don't know, there was some asshole named Donnie in there somewhere. Like, it was just like, oh, shit, that's like my lineage, too.
Yeah.
You know?
I like the reverence that Jerry reads it back to him with. Because Jerry reads it like it's all, you know, he doesn't know whether waitress or, computer maker. There's societal feelings about these two things. To them, it's just all like, this is where you came from. This is what they did. And
yeah.
It's important because it got you here.
Yeah. And I think that it really is a like nice contrast to when he starts. So he raises the baby. He really embraces single fatherhood, and he raises that baby with so much love. And like at some point when Zamus, the baby, is like, I wish I had 5 fingers instead of 3. I wish I had, you know, a face that looked like your face. And Dennis Quaid, in spite of all the beginning of the movie being like, you're ugly, you're a frog person, you know, you're gross, and I'm better than you, is like, no, you're perfect for who you are. You're a perfect Drac, and being a Drac is beautiful.
Kid.
Yeah. I thought that was so sweet. And I loved, even though I was sad to not have Louis Gossett Jr. in the movie anymore, I was like into single dad Dennis Quaid.
And that kid killed it too. He really picked up the alien Drac torch, and like with like the speech and just, you know, the makeup again, really, like I felt like he really truly is the offspring of Jerry.
Yes. And here's another thing of this movie being like, you know, ultimately holding up and even holding up so much better than so many other movies of its era, or even modern movies, is that like Dennis Quaid, who seems to be like the biggest jackass, fully embraces this ungendered being, right? And refers to, I don't love that they refer to each of them as it instead of like a they them, you know. But like, I totally respect that he wasn't always like he, you know, I'm designating you male. Like, he really leaned into the ungendering of the Drac species. And I was like, that is very woke of you, Dennis Quaid. And I did not expect that of you or of this movie. And I was pleasantly surprised.
Not as surprising that they like, even just that storyline. I think that's part of the reason, like, some of the stuff why this movie's not as popular. Because, you know, I imagine something like, you know, even when Shape of Water came out, a lot of people were like, I don't want to see that movie where she, you know, has sex with a monster. They're like, I don't want to see this movie where Dennis Quaid, like, makes friends with this hermaphrodite alien that gives birth to its, like, own child. Like, it's the 80s. I'm going to go do blow.
Yeah. I want to see them blow each other up, not learn to love each other.
It's just so different than the.
Well, if you waited just a few months, you could see that. There's Rambo.
Like the Star Wars space battle kind of sci-fi genre. Because I see this so much as like, man, like this would make a really fantastic stage play.
It
with
would.
Like two great actors.
Hell yeah.
The stuff that doesn't work is a lot of your action, which you don't have. Like now, when you do a little bit of that, it's just great. You know, stagecraft. So it's like cool that you have a couple spaceship things, but then the bulk of it is really just between these two people.
If you turn some of the action scenes that we see in the end, which are arguably some of the weakest parts of the movie, for sure. If you turn them into like musical numbers, hey, you toad face, you know, like they're like
we'll workshop those.
Yeah, exactly. They're struggling over a shotgun.
I tell you
all
what,
the other humans kind of suck.
They were meant to be slaves.
I am into it.
No, where's my child?
And I would love it if they did that sort of like Johnny Lee Miller, Benedict Cumberbatch thing where they like switch roles every night. Like, where it's like, sometimes I'm the Drax, sometimes you're the Drax. We're going to switch off. I would be totally into that.
I think it should have a revival.
It should. I would be so signed up for that. And so, but speaking of the last little bit of this movie, just takes a bonkers turn where Dennis Quaid's dead, then he's alive, and then all of a sudden,
shot in the heart.
Yeah, literally, dude literally got shot in the heart.
And then, okay. And he's just like running around, like literally wearing disguises. He's got like a trench coat and an Indiana Jones hat, fedora on, and he's like, nobody will recognize me. What?
We gotta wrap this picture up. All right, we gotta wrap it up in 15 minutes.
And then also all of a sudden they're dropping people into drills and like dismembering ears, and like all of a sudden it becomes very like graphically gory in a weird way.
It
And
reeks
like,
of a
what?
producer coming in and asking, like, "Where's the action?
Yeah.
Where they're in this hut and they're talking. I don't know if one of them's like impregnated himself. Where's the action?"
And they're just that whole weird, very Captain Kirkian fight scene where he's just like single punch.
Oh
Single
yeah,
punch.
Struggles left, right, left, push.
with outrageous sound effects. They couldn't even get good punching sound effects.
Yeah.
And they're just tossing Zamis around like he is getting concussed left, right, sideways, up, down. They're tossing him into a pallet full of rocks.
Yeah, he's either crushed or gonna be burned. It also reeks of like they couldn't have the kid actor anymore, so they're like, we'll just use this
rubber doll.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they can only shoot with minors for like 8 hours in a day.
Yeah,
And so it's like, okay, let's bring in the rubber doll.
And there is one crazy moment when the sort of ultimate bad guy like tosses them into, he's about to toss them into like boiling oil or something, and he says, "Bubble, bubble, toil and trouble."
He says it. He says it with a straight face.
And I'm like, this son of a bitch has never heard Shakespeare.
Yeah, and it's also the problem of like having like the bad guy there, such a like obvious character actor from a lot of movies, like from.
He's such a bad for a movie that's all about trying to get to like, you know, the more finer minutia of what's going on. Gives us some of like the most corny villains in the end.
And corny ham-fisted like villains from like a Canon Films, action movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the whole end sequence reeked of like a really bad version of the Temple of Doom, like mining stuff. Whereas like I have seen this sequence play out with like a buff dude like saving a little kid and a bunch of miners. Like, but it was a Temple of Doom, and it was handled a lot better than this.
Yes, it was so Temple of Doom. Yeah. And then even the end where he's like, so then we went to his thing, and I said the names, and bada boom, he had a kid, named it after me. We're done.
Pretty good. The narrator, because all the other narration was Quaid before, right? There was never this old man who was telling us this story until the very end of it. Why couldn't Quaid just finish it out?
They ran out of money.
Sorry, Dennis, that's a day. We have more, but don't worry, we're using that guy.
We got one more scene, and he's driving away.
They ran out of Quaid bucks, and he
ain't coming back. He is not coming back.
True story.
Yeah. So very weird turn at the end.
Yeah.
But overall, like I already said it, but I think this movie holds up, and I would recommend it to people to see, and I would recommend it be a stage play, and I would recommend like let's start showing this now, in movie theaters, because I think people need to see it. The message
they need to see the first hour and 10 minutes.
There could be a special edit,
and then someone explains the rest.
But not Dennis Quaid. It will not be Dennis Quaid explaining it to you. That's all we do know. What?
It could be a montage.
Yeah.
And here's what happened.
They were so afraid of montages in that movie. That was another one of my beefs. Is it's like a lot of it's just kind of string set pieces along, and that's where it felt very theatrical to me. It was like, here's our scene here. It's kind of about this, and then we fade out and we fade back in, and it's now we're at a different set piece. And I wish there had been a better use of montage to convey time, other than Quaid's weird beard.
Yeah, I felt like we missed an opportunity because he was back with all the humans, who were both like not into. It was almost kind of like the ending of like Dances with Wolves or something. It's like where, he returns to the insensitive world of people who still
don't get it.
Yeah, the Drax as an other, or as a thing. And I felt like we missed the moment, like it happened off screen, of where he's defending his friendship or defending his, newfound beliefs.
No, he just bolted
to deaf ears. You know,
He did.
I don't even get why his friends even showed up to help him in the end. I didn't get.
Yeah.
Other than to arrest him, like that would probably be what they're there for.
Yeah, they were writing him off as he was all going, is from their point of view, gone to crazy town. And so why would they go after him unless, that there was some other reason? Instead, they should have had some sort of concern or affection for him to then go after him afterwards,
Yeah, but totally agree with that. Did not even think of it that way. But yeah, he's just like, I got to get out of here. I'm going to blow a hole in the side of your spaceship. But it's fine because apparently everywhere in space has oxygen, so it's no big deal.
Yeah, that did work out for him.
So on a scale of 1 alien baby being ripped out of a tummy tum tum to 10 alien babies.
Oh my god, that's a lot of babies.
Or like on a scale of having 1 lineage to 10 lineages, where do you plunk down Enemy Mine?
I mean, I am speaking from deep place of nostalgia, so from a personal level, I still just enjoyed the hell out of watching it and would give it like a 9. But if I'm like taking off my nostalgia blinders, it's probably
your nostalgia VR goggles,
somewhere between like a 6 and an 8, depending on like what you want to focus on in it.
Which half hour of the movie we speak of.
Yeah.
Because
I think there's a lot of great stuff and solid scenes between the two of them.
There's a lot of stuff. It's like, why don't they make this kind of movie anymore? Like a sci-fi movie with like, issues.
It should have been like an indie film. It's probably, for as much as they probably wanted more money, it probably would have been better if they lost half their budget and cut all the space stuff, and it was just 2 actors on this planet dealing with each other.
I did read that the producers insisted that they include a mine, like a literal mine, so that people who got confused that the title was referring to an enemy that is possessed by me, they would be like, oh yeah, what was the mine? Yeah, that was a mine. It's fine.
The mine was in the last 20 minutes.
Yeah. So on a scale of 1 mine to 10 mines, Nathan, what say you?
So I'm going to give it a 7. I would have rated it higher if it wasn't for kind of like the last 20 minutes. But yeah, I feel like in terms of it holding up, it having a very interesting take and an interesting story, performances, production design, just kind of a unique experience. But then it gets knocked down for a couple of silly stuff or when
a required mine.
Yeah. the required the contractual mine.
Yeah. So I give it a 7 too, and I'm not just saying that because you said it, Nathan. I was like, this is a 7. It's fun. It holds up. I like it. I'm glad I watched it. It's fun times. So what about deep cut recommendations? Hopefully you thought of one while we've been talking, Sean.
I did. So my 80s, this is another, and it's tied to this film because I also spent my summers watching the VHS in Oregon with my grandmother. Little Nemo Adventures in Slumberland, which is an animated film that is an adaptation of an old comic book strip that ran for a long time in the 1900s. So
that's awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, it's a cool kind of adventure through a dreamland and very fantastical and very dark in a lot of like the 80s cartoon kind of vibe and style. Like it's not really holding your hand as much. Kind of maybe trying to scare kids sometimes.
Oh, the 80s loved to scare children. That there's a Hug-a-Bunch movie that like really messed me up.
Yeah, and I feel like we owe Jaws for that,
What?
The movie Jaws.
They just really like, if you scare people, there's a lot of money in it.
No, well, I think the introduction of horror as mainstream comedy like slipped into popular entertainment, had a lot to do with the success of not only Jaws but Steven Spielberg, because he tried to slip that into a lot of his stuff. Like
It's
Poltergeist is a very mainstream horror film, and like all the Amblin stuff and all the Spielberg ripoff stuffs were trying to kind of emulate that.
Yeah,
so I felt like a lot of that stuff, a lot of the 80s were horror was introduced a lot more liberally into the mainstream.
Thanks for scaring kids, Steven.
Seriously. What is your deep cut recommendation, Nathan?
So I'm going to recommend a TV show on HBO called Raised by Wolves.
Oh,
Yeah.
Have you heard about that? So
I did watch it.
Yeah. So if you're in the, so this it's a story. It's co-created by Ridley Scott, and it very much has his signature. But it's about these two androids, raising a group of children on a mysterious planet. So if you're into, if you dug Enemy Mine and you're into like more of a strange alien world, people surviving on it, the world building, the stuff people do for survival, if you're into that, then
Weird religious stuff too.
Yeah, exactly. This is going to scratch that itch. Yeah, humans doing
things
that you're ashamed
about.
of.
It's so close to Enemy Mine, and I loved the show, so it's funny that I never put it together.
Love it.
You're welcome.
I'm going to recommend Doctor Who.
Doctor Who?
Doctor Who, specifically the episodes Silence of the Library and Forest of the Dead, which are season 4, episodes 8 and 9, the Tennant era, the Tennant Donna Noble era, because, and it was reminding me of it in the very beginning when his little tiny baby 8-year-old co-pilot dies. He has that broken helmet, his broken space helmet, and I was like, that put me in mind to those 2 episodes of Doctor Who. And then I just like confirmed it for myself later on when I was like, okay, well, so much of the meaning of Doctor Who, which is also, cheesy sci-fi in many ways, is about how, we're all stories in the end, and sharing your story and having someone to carry on your story is the best way to live on in infamy or what have you. So those are my recommendations: Doctor Who, Silence of the Library, and Forest of the Dead.
Very nice.
So yeah, so that's that. Where can people find you, Sean, to watch your various things and support you?
I'm everywhere you're supposed to be on the internet, and nowhere where you're not supposed to be on the internet.
Right.
So
just please do not check my browsing history.
You can find my OnlyFans, of course. Oh, sorry. No, you can find me Instagram, Third Productions, Facebook, www.thirdproductions.com, and Sean Oliver. And I'm happy to make new friends with strangers on the internet.
Right.
I've done it a lot, It was just I say it as a joke, but also a long list of people come to my mind where I'm like, yeah, I've never met you in real life. Yeah, we're internet friends.
I love it. And Nathan, do you want to tell everyone where they can find and support you?
Yeah, the usual. It hasn't changed. SquishyStudios.com or Squishy Studios on all the interwebs, on the socials.
And you can find me everywhere under Neighborhood Comedy Theater. It's nctphoenix.com or nctphx, pretty much everywhere. So yeah, thank you, Sean, for being our guest and for picking this movie. And as we always like to end by reminding our listeners to be excellent to each other. And of course, party on.
Yeah. He did the voice.
Flawless. Okay, yay.